Okay. Seems to be a lot of shadows in this room today. Does it look okay? Right. So just rub your hands together, start in the usual way, and tapping over your face. Over your head and neck. Down on shoulder. Arm. On the other side. The upper part of the chin. Gradually work down to your belly. Always a bit lighter on your belly. And then finishing with the leg. Just to remind you, these tapping exercises, I do them in a particular way, but you're not going to do yourself any harm if you do it differently. All sorts of variations on them in any case, so useful to remember. Sitting back, weight of your legs really on your heels. The rest of your weight go back into the chair gradually. So you're familiar with this feeling of easing back. Think about or observe rather, the sensations within your body as you sit back. It will become a more familiar feeling for you all. This letting go is sometimes described, but that's just a word or two words. It's really about, can you recognize how your body responds to propriety? Can you work with that response to get this sense of releasing, sinking down, rooting down? Because the sensations will be the same as you transfer from sitting back to upright to standing. So you have a sense of what you're looking for. So it's something to fix in for mind. So bring your feet in and slightly forward. It's like lots of things. We can train ourselves to recognize things. We train ourselves to recognize all sorts of things outside of ourselves. Sounds and people's voices, for instance, sights, feelings, sensations. So it's just a matter of doing that with very subtle details, very subtle changes within your body. It's something we keep coming back to, so we gradually reinforce those positive things or awareness. So it's there when you need it. In the same way as if you walk into your bedroom and it's dark, put your hand out and turn the light on. If you're walking down the road and it's a bit busy, or you suddenly feel the need to root down, just reach out and root down. Think about the various things that you associate. It might be your breathing, it might be the feeling of pressure in your hips, your feet, openness of the upper part of the body. And then start another little routine of joint rotations and loosening, turning your head not too far. You don't want pressure on the side of your neck, if, or you don't want undue pressure. You don't want to tighten that because of the arteries in your neck. So this massaging quality to the movement is a good guide. That quality of movement is another thing that you can begin to learn to bring your attention back to. Try it sometime. Next time you're walking down the road, remember the Tai Chi. See if it makes a difference. And then the shoulders. That awareness that builds up is also one of the key factors, if not the key factor, in the development of our Tai Chi. People sometimes say to me, when do we get to do the dance exercise? The first response is always, you've already done them. Doing them right now. The exercises will have many layers, many aspects to it. And then in the other direction, hands down to your sides. And then winding around. And then the other way. And rest. And then ease forwards and push back. What we have here is another very key sensation, which is transfer of the weight, the filling and emptying from your hips to your feet and back to your hips. Important really for two reasons. One is just in terms of our general well-being. Transfer of the weight is an essential part of our mobility, one that we want to be able to get correct as much as possible. The second thing is, again, in terms of Tai Chi and its development, it really is a key movement. And particularly for those of you interested in Tai Chi forms, then the awareness of your weight, how it moves, when it moves, where it is, which leg it's in or whatever, which part of the body it is in. is absolutely fundamental. You cannot get the movements correct in a Tai Chi form without the weight being correct. Turn just a little. So as well as being beneficial in their own right, these exercises, so for instance, these initial exercises, they make the joints, a simple little movements, they put us in touch with our body. Also the sort of core movements that will make up the later part of the class. And in the other direction. When you turn from the middle part of your body, area between your hips, you see my hand, and about your waist. So now, when I start to turn around, it's there I turn from. To start off with, it's probably a good idea to think of your upper body, your shoulders, and ribs, and head, as being quite passive. And obviously they're not, but just ignore them for a moment. Think of a tree that blows around in the wind. That's that kind of flow movement that you see in branches and when the breeze blows across the grass. Then go back the other way. And when you feel you've got that, use this image of moving through water to provide the body with the idea that it has a bit of resistance to overcome. And once again, just observe how the movement changes for you. Coming back to this central position, this point of equilibrium, moving your leg, just raise your heel, push out, and step. Plant the foot. With a minimum disruption to the feeling of being very settled, very open, right up through your back and your shoulders and so on and so forth. And on the other side, with your hands down to your sides. So now, fisherman cast a net. What we want to try and do is, in a sense, not have to think about those different qualities, just think consciously about them, to be very aware of them in the back of your mind. Like you might be aware of the sound of the fridge in the kitchen. So it's not that you're ignoring them, they're there, hopefully. But your attention has shifted now to the overall movement, maybe the images of them. Remember, this is fisherman cast a net. And the effect of the different parts of the body and mind beginning to really interact. And then changing as your hands come up, feel your elbows and your shoulders dropping down. And then changing, drawing your arms apart, pigeon spreads its wings. Very soft, the shoulders and arms. And yet at the same time, the stronger feeling beginning to develop again. Best way to build that is through the use of imagery, another thing that we become better at making use of. Imagine you've got a ball between your arms, and these big baseball type things, or gym balls. And just imagine here trying to crush it in, to push it in as hard as possible. The resistance would increase as you push in more. Coming back, imagine there's something like an elastic band joining your hands up, and you're pulling against that. But drop your hands down. See if you can still feel some of those qualities from the previous exercise working. But the image of pushing the wave or pushing the boat, that much stronger. And again, we observe how our body adapts to that. Some of that strength is physical conditioning. And in the case of Tai Chi, when we think about that, you need to be aware that we're using the body differently. We often find ourselves using muscles differently and so on. But also the feel of the movement becomes stronger. And then your hands twisted. Now we feel that rotation again from shoulders down into our hands. Not tightening the fingers. And again, you can imagine resistance. Say, imagine if you had, for instance, an elastic band wrapped around your arm. Feel how your body responds to that. What's happening in your upper back, rib cage. You're sitting there thinking that you haven't got a clue what I'm on about. Just practice. And this time, we're going to go back to the pigeon spreads its wings. So we start to do these movements as a sequence. Try and let your thoughts rest on the movements so that it's not just your body developing this calm, flowing quality, but your mind, your thoughts as well. And again, that's something which we get better at with practice. And again, it's something that is integral to development in Tai Chi. We'll make this the last round of this particular movement sequence. So now, at the end of the punch, open your fingers, turn your hands out, wind back. And your weight goes forwards, settle into your feet, and go back. So it feels as though you're pulling your hands, pulling on your arms. One more time. Don't lose the awareness of how your feet and your hips are working. Change. So if you're wondering what I meant by that, actually, this movement starts before you can see it. What you will see is my hands going up and down. What you don't see are the movements that, if they were larger, and if they were, if I did them more, basically, would actually cause me to do this. Watch. That's what would happen if I did those movements in a big way, but I don't. Just enough to move my arms. And we get this lovely flow of movement in the arms because they're not having to do very much. And if you want to test that, then pick an exercise that you like. It could be any of the exercises. And just put a clock in front of you and do it for 15 or 20 minutes. See which parts of your body are aching at the end of that. And then the wild goose. One more time, going into parting the clouds. Another thing that doing an extended practice of one particular exercise will do is, over a period of time, it would improve your powers of focusing and concentration. You will get better at maintaining that focus of attention. And again, this is another element that really contributes to our progress in Tai Chi. Another element that, if it doesn't improve, is going to hold you back. So now back to rooting down, and again a sequence of 3 movements linking together. Do one more round of this. Changing to dragon plucks the stars from the sky. Another thing that training your awareness of what's happening, what it will offer you is chance to recognize which exercises might actually be useful at a particular time. You're stiffening your back. Which of the exercises that, as we go through the session, are really helping to ease the back? Same thing with all parts of the body. One more on each side. And then changing. Very gently. This time we'll add in the turning movement. Remember to take your time, don't rush through the movement. And in particular, try not to rush through a particular stage. The stage that we would normally do that with, in my experience, is the returning stage of each section. As we come back, we very easily skip through it. Recognize that point where the movement changes. Be patient. One more round. So we're going to change now to scooping the sea and looking at the sky. Imagine somebody pulling on your belt in the back of the chair. So at a certain point, again, there's just a natural point of return, coming back into the upright position, then going forwards again. And then changing, grasping the tiger's ears. Switch sides. And then grasping the tiger's ears. One more time. Now, back to the parallel. And for a moment, just back to weight transfer forwards and backwards. And as you do this, I want you to just turn the middle of the body. So as you forward, your head moves in the direction of one knee. When you come back, you're facing forwards. When you go forwards again, you're facing the other knee. I do this, but just if you look at my hands as I do this, you'll see that they're with me. And that again is one of the crucial things to feel that sense of connection in all the way through your body that moves your hands for you. So we use this movement for several of the exercises. We're going to start with hitting the ball onto the shoulder. And when you come back this time, hands in front of you, forwards and turn, and your arms just lifting a little bit, extending out from your shoulder. So lifting, pushing, being pushed up is a better feeling, a better way of thinking of it. And again, as your hand rises, typically imagine just resting your hands gently on the shoulders, so your shoulder drops. And at first you'll find that that doesn't really help the movement, but in time, this focusing on the development of what we call intent in Tai Chi, intending to hit a ball up, will overcome the sort of difficulties. Your body will find a way to follow the mind. So you want to hit the ball up, you want to stay that soft, supple feeling, you want to lose the sense of equilibrium and fall out of your chair, and so on and so forth. Our bodies are quite adaptable. Now, turning both hands up and down slightly, cowgaze. Weight comes back to the middle between your hips, forwards into one leg, and then you turn. Very, very careful with your back with this one. But pull your shoulders around to see how far it's comfortable for you to straighten the back of your shoulders. And then one hand. Still going forwards a little bit. So you're offering somebody a drink. But first of all, you're just creating a space by pushing your shoulder forwards. Feeling in your arm has an element of the sort of thing you might imagine if you've got a piece of string or a scarf or something like that and had it on the ground and you flicked it, you see this sort of wave going out through the scarf, string. Elements of that very much in this book. Now let's try with the other hand. Weight goes across into the opposite hip, forward diagonally to the foot. We'll do one more of these on its own. So now we go into the full movement part in the wild horse's mane. You come back, drawing your hand across just below shoulder height. Hold the ball. Move back into your opposite hip, in this case, the left hip, forwards, and going forwards into my right. 4 stages to the movement. So if I count them, on 1, I move from this hip to that foot. My arm and my body follows. 2, I come back on the same route to draw my hand across the chest and hold the ball. 3, I move my weight over into my left foot. And 4, I turn a little, and then I'm back to 1 on the opposite side, and back. 2, 3, hold the ball across, 4. When we count like that to start off with, it always feels a touch awkward. But in the end, it becomes another thing, that awareness of the stages of the movement, another thing that brings back your attention, not having to consciously think about it, so you at that point tend to lose the numbering system. So one more round. Now, come back and rest again, and just reflect on your posture after doing what we've done, 3/4 of an hour of movements, because doing the movements is, it's good to have the focus of attention to help do the movements, but also doing the movements should be helping us to focus our attention. It's a two-way process. See if you can find again that sense of being essential. Good, and then once again, tap in. Starting with your face. Over your head and neck. Upper part of your chest. Belly. And then, importantly, because you're going to stand up, your legs, you want the feeling back in your legs, you want blood to be flowing, muscles working. And then standing. I'm going to get rid of my chair, so I've got a bit more room, but as always, do use the chair to support yourself. bear in mind always, of course, that actually that can be quite a useful tool to help you understand. So, you know, the reason I've really moved the chair is because I've got room to move otherwise. But sometimes I might use a chair or use a support if I wanted to play around with a particular thing, just to find out what happens. Central equilibrium, your weight just flowing forwards and backwards in your feet. And three sort of areas, three sections really to think about. One we don't want to stay in is this one where everything starts to go wrong. We tighten up in our body. We need to take a step. We feel as though we're going to fall. It's not very comfortable. So we find out where those parts of the movement start and we don't go there, basically. We're with the remaining two areas, if you want to think of them like that, aspects of this movement. One is the flow from one movement to another that should start in your feet. So what you really want to feel is that your weight is moving from a point just behind the ball of your foot to the front part of your heel and then back. Maybe not far, but notice that it's a very subtle movement. And you want to train yourself to recognize that. Just like you might train your attention to recognize when the instrument goes downstream, or whatever a garden would recognize when there's a weed growing or a plant growing where it should not do, or plant needs watering. So in Tai Chi, we learn to recognize the slightest little change in our body. And then the third element, area, to think of it like that, is the bit where we come to rest, where there's an equality, hence equilibrium, between front and back. In other words, any tendency to be pulled forwards is matched by any tendency to be pulled backwards, and the same between left and right. And everything just settles, like you're trying to balance a pencil on your finger or something. And then sinking down, and the same as here, the central equilibrium and a little bit of movement out from that, but never so much that we reach again that point of tightening, stiffening in any direction. So when you go up, there should be no locking back of your knees. When you go down, it's your hips dropping back, not straining in your knees. Try as much as possible not to go forwards and backwards. And then the wild goose. And part in the clouds. One more time. Good. 1 foot forwards. Your weight in the middle, 50% in each leg. Central equilibrium once again. Equally balanced, if you like, between front, back, left and right, up and down. Your body's held in that position. And as we begin to move, really the only way we can maintain those qualities as we move is making sure that it's our feet that move us, not our shoulders. So once again, we're back to the use of our legs, the transfer of our weight. In order to maintain those qualities that we build our awareness of through the practice. And then we build that into the stepping, by raising toes and heel. Each time we add a movement, we make it more like we're going to lose that equilibrium. So we have to find a way to do that movement without losing it. And stepping. And if you're comfortable with this, see you can take a couple of steps forwards or backwards, depending on where your space is. Very aware of how you're placing your foot, keeping the width of your step. Try not to speed up. Don't try and balance. Maintain your root, your posture, your alignment, and then change sides. Again, transferring your weight. And then raising your toes and your heel. Stepping in. And forwards or backwards, depending on where you've got space. And once again, just stand in this neutral position, the central position. Go back to your chair. Can always be very useful, even if you wouldn't normally consider doing seated exercises. I try to persuade people to do the standing classes. They should try them seated exercise because it's very important to give ourselves a different perspective on the same thing. We learn more about it. We understand more about it. It's like if you go to a park and there's a statue or some kind of sculpture or something there, you look at it from one side and you think, well, I'm not sure what that's all about. If you move around it, well, there's a nice tree there, and you think, well, yeah, it looks nice. And you look around it, you see other aspects of it. So it's always worth playing around with these movements. Now, what I'm trying to do now is to just come back to those really basic qualities, return into them, so that A, they're hardwired into our system more, and B, we know how to get back to them, so that when we lose them, which inevitably we do, we have a way of getting back. So let your hands drop down, and then embrace tiger, return to mountain. And lovely. Thank you very much, anybody. Does anybody have any questions before we finish? You'll have to unmute yourself. Lovely. Thank you very much, everybody. Thanks for joining in again, and I hope to see you all soon. So enjoy the weather when you get a chance as well. It's lovely out there. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks. See you on Thursday.
Yeah. Bye bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye all.
See you soon.
See ya.